Hey Switchers, welcome back. Kanan here, and thanks for joining me for my review of Loopindex. And as always, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to be kept up to date with all my latest content. And why not get more involved by coming and joining the community Discord? Link is down below. And so let us get ourselves into the loop and see what Loopindex has to offer. Gameplay. Story-ish. A virtual land that just begs to be solved, or something like that anyway. And so, top down in nature, you move around and swap between the robots as it takes two, baby. Me and... oh, actually I only had me to play with, as on this occasion no one would play with me. Anyway, and moving on. As you progress through the levels, you have to push buttons down to avoid spikes and also to open like doors, those shutter door type things, and various other things as you progress through the levels. And sometimes it needs you to push these like blocks over the actual buttons to keep them pressed down so that you can either go past something or go through something. And talking about blocks, or crates as they are, you can also push them in water because water and machinery don't mix. And that way you can actually cross these waters. And the main premise really of the game is the fact that you have these red areas and you basically lose control of your bot, and that's where this loop mode kind of mechanic comes into play. And you can only go in one direction, so activate it and you'll carry on in that direction until redirected or stopped. And talk about redirections, there are arrows as you can see on the actual field, and basically they dictate where you go. In some levels you can change the directions, in some levels you cannot. And that does actually make up for some of the decent puzzles. Later on in the levels you'll get blue ones as well, and they're controlled separately. As well as all of this, later on you'll also get cranes, teleporters, conveyor belts, and even boss fights. And it's all drip fed to you as you go along, and I'm trying to really keep this spoiler free. The game has around 70 levels, and yeah, they are challenging, but not so challenging that you're going to rip your hair out in a massive frustration. I have to say that the controls took me a while to actually get used to. In fact, a fair while. The actual button to go into like the autopilot was kind of fiddly, as you would turn it on and for some reason forget the button. I don't know why. But do trust me that later on, when you're actually getting into the game a bit more, you do start remembering it a bit more, and yeah, it starts clicking the further in you get. For me, a good 20 levels, to be completely honest with you. The game is okay, and for the price I guess it's fair, the amount of levels you get. I haven't actually got to one of the boss battles yet, and yeah, I'm kind of plodding through it. But I haven't reached anything that I would have called a boss level as of yet, and I'm kind of like halfway well, more than halfway through the actual game now. Graphically, well, it's on the basic side, but this sort of game always will be, and yeah, I don't really mind that. And it's kind of like what I've come to expect of this sort of game. And likewise from the audio as well, it's the same kind of thing. Nice little like soundtrack in the background, and then all your little running waters and movement and everything as well. And I'm kind of not even sure whether this would actually gain anything by going graphically and audibly like upmarket. The good. New mechanics added during gameplay, and there's quite a few as you progress. Also like little like helpers like frogs and all, they're quite cool as well. A good amount of levels, and not so hard and not so easy. The bad. Can feel a little samey after a while, and some of the levels just don't feel kind of like you can get like so far, and then they'll drop a really easy level that really doesn't take anything to complete, and it's a bit off balance that way. The score. And as usual, I score games out of 5, and it's all based off my own feelings of the game, you know, value and things like that. And so let's see whether Loopindex makes it onto the Wall of Fame or Wall of Shame, or maybe somewhere in that middle bit. And I'm definitely going to give Loopindex a 3 out of 5. It's kind of more on the average side of the spectrum of puzzle games. It's kind of like, I've seen it before, but they've done it slightly better here, but still there's that inconsistency of the difficulty. But I do tip my hat for them trying to do something a little bit different. And as for my alternative, I'm going to go for Reactor X. It's not as pretty, it's not as, it doesn't build on itself as much, but it's not a bad game. And definitely one that you may want to take a look at once you've completed this one. And so, what are your thoughts on Loopindex? Are you going to be picking it up or not? Leave it all down in the comments. That is where they belong. And, if you've made it this far, why not hit that like and subscribe button as well? You'll be kept up to date on all my latest content. And if you want to go that little bit further, come and join us in the community Discord. Because life is better when we switch together.